Hello everyone. My name is Jeff Madzingo, and I'm the CEO of Diaspora Insurance, and I'm honored to be talking to you today. We will be talking a lot about issues of diaspora communities and the solutions that we bring to you as Diaspora Insurance. Also, just talking about the life journey to where we are today, but we really feel honored to be hosted on this platform. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, the number one place to find exclusive real-world solutions to problems that keep you up at night. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we've brought in someone who turns pain into purpose in the most literal way. Now, Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm good, and I really feel honored to be your host here, and thank you so much for inviting us.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Yeah?
Yeah, we are all good. We are all good here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Now, for those
we really appreciate your work of highlighting what we do and everyone else out there. I think it's important that whatever capacities, expertise we have, we take to the people and support our own communities.
I appreciate that. And thank you so much. And for those that are meeting Jeff for the very first time, now, Jeff is the CEO and founder of Diaspora Insurance. Now, Jeff has come from a humble beginnings from Gutu. We're going to be talking about his journey and what he brings to the table. But obviously, he's also had his own trials and tribulations, from being a banker to being a security guard, and then now an insurance visionary. And even though the CV might sound like something out of a Netflix documentary, this is somebody that is live and here to help you really create, that peace of mind that each and every one of us in the diaspora deserves, especially when, tragedy strikes. Okay. But before we obviously run into this epic origin story, this episode, we're just going to be talking about, life and, the celebration of it. And we're not just going to be talking about insurance. We're talking about healing grief, securing legacies, and also building civil society, one insurance payout at a time. So if you have ever lost sleep wondering who will take care of my family when I'm gone, then I bet this episode is the one you've been waiting for, and you are in the right place. Now, Jeff, I could go on and talk about things that I'm not even qualified to talk about. Take us way back in rural Gutu in Zimbabwe. Yeah. What is maybe one memory of your childhood that you now look back and you'll be like, man, I never thought my life would be like this?
Yeah. Thank you so much. And my background, growing up in Gutu as a young little boy there, specifically qualifying rural, like in the village where we used to do the cattle barefooted, whether winter or summer, scorching sands or frozen grounds, walking to school barefooted. It's been really some journey, and we find ourselves in those situations and going through the struggles of life. But I've said it before that when sometimes you are caught up in those situations, human resilience it shows up, and you don't even realize that you are in a struggle or you are in a very, very unprivileged situation, because that's all you know. And life is your village to the horizon, and you make the most of what you have. And we grew up in a very big family, and like I alluded to in some other interviews before, my father was a charming boy. He managed to charm two sisters, married to two sisters. So we grew up as a family of 18 kids, and two sisters married to my daddy, surviving on peasant farming. So it was really some tough life, but I think, like I said, it's tough when juxtaposed. You are only short if you are standing with someone tall. You are only ugly if you are standing compared to someone very pretty. On your own, you are beautiful. On your own, you are tall. So that's the
Absolutely.
reality of life, that you start to realize that, oh, life was tough here, but then in those days it was just life. We didn't have the luxury of comparing it. So we soldiered on, and it's an amazing story of resilience and changing the fortunes from those situations to where we are now as a family. And you can't even tell the story without thanking the parents, without thanking the older brothers, the older sisters who managed to carry the vision in the beginning so that the younger ones grew up with a purpose beyond the village. I remember when I went back to the village to open the library, and I cities and I built for them, telling a story that this village school gave me wings, not just to fly, but to fly out, but also to fly back, to uplift the community.
And I kind of feel like with that sort of responsibility, I mean, you would have been the one that escaped. Now, a lot of people are looking up to you as the point of reference of what it could be like, especially coming from dire straits like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always the case, but in life, we are all gifted with the ability to lead, the ability to carry the vision, the ability to be torch bearers in our own right, without sometimes realizing. I have said it before that the biggest leader in your life is embedded within you. There's no leader better than what you already have naturally inbuilt and embedded within you. Whatever you do in life, it could be silly things like you habitually go to work late, or you habitually extend your 1 hour lunch to 1.5 hours, or 1 hour 1 hour 15 minutes. Some subconsciously, something will be telling you this is not right. So that's the leader in you trying to give you direction. And sometimes we then find excuses to say, but it's because there's traffic, there's road work on my way to work. If there's road work, wake up earlier.
I can imagine.
So the point really is that yes, you could end up in a situation where you look like you are the torch bearer, and you are the inspiration to the rest of the community. But what I want everyone to believe is that the biggest leader in your life is embedded within you. You can look up to someone, but the first person to look up to is yourself. You know it when it's going right, when it's going wrong, and something tells you that this is really going on well, this is going wrong. But we always, human nature is that we find the justification for wrongdoing, which again is against the conscious, subconscious awareness that is embedded already in us, that no, you need to do this way. So yeah, I support, and I believe that ultimately you can have people to look up to as inspiration, but the biggest leader in your life is embedded already in you.
I like that. It's like a seed. When you have a seed, it doesn't go to the other village or to the other trees to say, hey, can I have a leaf or can I have fertilizer? It just has all of the things embedded
Correct.
inside
Yeah.
of it, and then
Correct.
it
Yeah.
just absolutely
It
grows.
blossoms. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, speaking of obviously, looking forward to certain things, growing up in the village, you wouldn't have had any sort of role models, or maybe people that you would have looked up to, or maybe you did. Was there something that you would have been saying, when I grow up I want to do this, or when I grow up I want to be like this person? And How did that turn out?
Yeah, I think that's again relates to the previous point. What you'll find is that sometimes the way you are wired, then the way you choose to do things, and the way you choose to listen to the inner leader embedded in you, it almost guides you in terms of where you end up in life. And in terms of you may not necessarily have role models or anyone inspiring you, but the way you just want to thrive, to be successful. But for myself, I would say the biggest role models I had in my life would be my parents. They worked so hard, bringing in 18 children on peasant farming in the village, and also my older brothers and sisters coming through and supporting the family, and the family unity that we enjoyed, and all that. It was something out of this world. And you I would also recall in the olden days, then when I was at primary school, it's something that I've not said before. I think we're in grade 5 or grade 4,
Mhm.
somewhere there, and our headmaster was called Mr. Machine, and he was quite a fine guy in terms of trying to inspire us to be something in life. And one day he walked into the classroom, and for no reason he went on the chalkboard and wrote London. London, and he says, what does this read?
Right. London.
So I think in grade 3, 4, somewhere there, and being fearing to be caught out that I didn't know how to pronounce that. This really sounds funny because now we are looking at myself having settled in the UK, conquering London, and then I lifted my hand, and then he probably noticed that it was just to cover up and to be. So he picked me, and I say, it says London.
London.
It says London. Then the whole class was laughing at me, and but the headmaster, talking about that headmaster, you would come to, sometimes you just pop in your class. You are in the rural, and you have not eaten meat for months.
Mm,
Oh, you have not had any. So you would come sometimes with the biltong or dried meat, eating his dried meat, and says, "You boys, you kids, you need to study hard so that you can have this kind of life." You see
oh.
me, you see me when my suits. I've got so many suits in my wardrobe. Every morning I open my wardrobe, the hands will be dangling out like this, suits fighting to say, "It's my turn, it's my
My
turn."
turn.
So he used to do those things to inspire us and to give us a reason to study. And it was really rudimentary and elementary to the point that it just brought it home that I really needed to do well in life and study and maybe end up like this headmaster with so many clothes. He drives his car, he's got so many shoes and stuff. But it
Mm,
was really village life. And I actually remember when I was young thinking that whatever happens in life, I will study, grow up, study, get the highest education, and I will come and replace this headmaster.
wow. That became an anchor now, so
I was thinking that whatever happens, wherever life takes me, I want to come back here and I want to replace this headmaster and be the
absolutely.
headmaster of this school. So that's some of the things. But in terms of also other things like growing up, you find yourself the way you do things, the way you get inspired to do things. Sometimes you don't realize how it's shaping up into what you will do in life, how you will confront the problems in life and create solutions. And I would recall when we were young, we used to be very innovative, doing a lot of things like even if it means hunting grasshoppers or hunting mice or anything to survive in the village. And as boys, we would make our own tools and innovatively make our own tools to do the hunting and to do things. So it was always creating solutions for ourselves. And one year I got so annoyed that it was it was mango season. The mango was in season. Then there was an orchard at the school, but the teachers would always eat all the nice mangoes.
The yellow ones, yeah.
So the teachers would eat all the nice mangoes, and once in a blue moon, they will say when it becomes excessive and a lot of them are ripening, they would take them and then dish out to the kids. But it will be once in a blue moon. Then I was so annoyed one year that I think I was in grade 6. That if there is some boys from the neighboring households in the village around the school, they had orchards at their houses. So in mango season, they will have a lot of nice mango. Some called, we used to call them bull mango, the
Mangoes,
big ones. So they would have those ones and bring to school, eat. And at our homestead, there were maybe 1 or 2 mango trees, and sometimes things will go wrong and we don't get anything.
I mean,
So I
with
remember
18
being so
kids,
inspired. I remember being so inspired that I took a decision to say, no more. If I ever have a nice mango, I will grow the seed. If whether the mango is coming from the school or someone eats a nice mango and it drops the seed, I will take it and go and grow. So I started growing a huge orchard at our homestead in the village. And in the end, by the time that was when I was in grade 6, and by the time I was in secondary or going to university, the orchard had grown so big that my mom's could not would have so much in mango season. They would have so much mango that they would just go and harvest and put them by the side of the road to say anyone can just come and pick. So I was looking back, I'm realizing that I was just really trying to deal with a problem that we can't continue to have a situation where other kids have got mango when in mango season and we don't have. So I started growing mango trees. I started growing avocado trees. I started growing orange trees to just deal with the problem. So
absolutely.
So
See,
on
now,
reflection,
yeah, with what you're saying, and the most interesting part about this is I would know what classes like that would have maybe 40 or 50 kids in there. And when that teacher would come in, eating that biltong and with those mangoes, some people didn't see aspiration. Some people said, oh, he's probably not sharing. And
it's people will say it's not sharing, it's showing off and doing that. But I remember the other scenario was you would come in and say eating is and say, yeah, you kids, you see, when I say I ate vegetables in my house today, I mean I would have eaten fish.
A lesser version of the meat that would have been there.
You are there in the village and you have not eaten meat in a good month, and someone is telling you that when they say vegetables, they mean fish.
Absolutely. But you know what I like about this, Jeff, is the resourcefulness and also taking this inspiration not as a threat, but as anchoring and fuel that actually then led you to want more, be more, and have more. And the fact that you went and created this, opportunity for all your other 18 siblings for them to now have something, even if it was still at a grassroots level, that was actually the even today the orchard is very big and the trees are massive, and mango season they just can't deal with it. They just harvest and put them by the side of the road. And people like
just,
that. And you will see how that now ties into exactly what you're doing today, because there's statements that say, you don't, when you plant a tree, you don't plant it for the shade for yourself, but it's the shade of those
For
that
the
come,
village, yeah.
in the future and stuff like that.
Mm.
So
Correct.
obviously from all this inspiration, from, watching all this biltong and this mango, mango stories, you went on and became a banker. Maybe just walk us through, the start of your, sort of
Yeah,
career.
yeah. So growing up in the village, all my young life, until when we went to Form 1, it was just a village life, herding cattle, and I would recall 1978, 1979, schools were closed because of the Liberation War
Struggle, yeah.
in our area, when there was the fight for independence for Zimbabwe. So the schools were closed, and we didn't have any opportunity or any solution as to how do the kids continue with their school. So it was just schools have closed. We're very happy that schools have closed. We no longer have to go to school. We can stay herding
Free
cattle
holiday.
and goats and going into the bushes hunting and eating wild fruits like swaza, ute. We had
Matoe.
fruits like matowe, chechete, tsoritsoto, nengeni, and all sorts. So we had all the wild fruits that were seasonal, and we knew where, if it's this season, which fruit, which bush has got this fruit, because some fruits would thrive in drier areas or mountainous areas, and others who thrive in wetty water chains. So we knew every season where to get what in the village. So nature was quite providing. So it was quite we really just enjoyed ourselves to say, the schools are closed, so what, we just do what we needed to do. So 1979 we didn't even go to school. Then the country got independent 1980. That's when the schools opened and we went back to the same grade we were before, which meant we lost a year of education. So you can call me a war veteran here.
You did your part. I mean,
I
seriously,
did my part here. So,
yeah.
so then after independence, we pushed on with the rural life. Then the fortunate part for me and the younger siblings in the big family was that the older brothers, sisters were working now, sacrificing a lot and allocating each other to say, you pay fees for this one. But sometimes when I tell about my tough upbringing, people say, you're lying. How can someone poor go to boarding? But it was just a system where people really appreciated the importance of education, to a point where the older brothers, as they started to work, the older sisters sacrificing a lot even when they were married to support their siblings. It helped a lot in terms of bringing up the family and getting the younger ones even to start going into boarding. Then I went to boarding for my Form 1 at Fletcher High School. And in the big family, I'm like, there's a young brother at attender. He is the youngest of the 18. Then and it was big family and quite looking at it now, you see that the youngest was actually 30 years younger than the oldest. So easily the older brothers, sisters
Could
could
have
have been
been
parents
could have
to
been the
the
parents of. Yeah, wow, wow.
so so my youngest brother at attender, then my late sister attender, he should rest in peace. Then myself and my twin brother Sam, we were like the bottom. So we went to boarding and the Fletcher High School, and we after Fletcher I went to university, where the second intake at National University of Science and Technology in
No.
Blue Whale. Yeah, so that's where I did my first degree. After that, I worked as a banker. We managed to rise quite quickly, and I was already a bank manager by the time I got a British Council scholarship to go and do my MBA in international banking and finance in UK. So that's the part that is the background of how I was raised in terms of the education. My first degree is in finance and Bachelor of Commerce in Finance. So yeah, then going into the UK on a scholarship and yeah, settling in the UK is just another story.
Absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
I also want to be, to acknowledge this
Mhm.
journey in and of
Mhm.
itself. Okay.
Mhm.
Because going from where you went to,
Mhm.
especially in the times that you would have gone to, even being accepted into Fletcher High School, they would
Mhm.
have been very good grades. And for
Mhm.
you to be accepted from Fletcher to National University, they would have been
Mhm.
very good grades as well,
Mhm. Mhm.
in the way that you would have been operating. And
Mhm.
from that university and being taken in onto what an
The British
MBA
Council
program,
scholarship, yeah, yeah.
yes, they would have been very outstanding performances over
Mhm.
there. I think that is something
I,
that
I,
people
I, I think looking back at my life story, I think over the years, I wasn't like the most brightest child you will find, but over the years, as I think maturity helped me a lot to keep focused. What I lacked for natural intelligence, I made up through hard working and making sure that I need what needs to be done. So the focus, so sometimes it's not always about being the most intelligent. It's about balancing between intelligence and emotional intelligence and focus and having the vision to say this is what I want to achieve in life and pursuing that vision relentlessly and keeping focused. That is sometimes it turns out to end up being quite important as well. But I did pass through those stages and went through to university with the second intake at the NASTI,
do.
National University of Science and Technology. I did finish my degree with good grades enough to qualify for the British Council scholarship. But the screening process was really very tough. I think it was only about 80 students who were selected out of hundreds, I think more than 400 applications in the country to go on the scholarship in UK. So I was one of the lucky ones.
For those that are watching right now, I had to go there because our man Jeff here is just humble by nature, and you are
Yeah.
going to be noticing that
Mm,
this is a trait that he carries through the rest of
mm,
his life. What he's talking about is not something that anyone could just be given a certificate of
mm,
attendance. No, this
mm,
is
mm,
this is
mm.
national level success that obviously
Mm.
he might just be downplaying, but I know what would have gone through in order for him to
Yeah.
achieve that sort of
Mm.
success. But thank you so much for that.
No,
Now,
thank you.
obviously you've done, all this climbing up the hierarchy. You're already in this esteemed position. You arrive in the UK and jobs
Mhm.
are not playing out.
Yeah. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but sometimes you find yourself in these situations and you either engage reverse gear or you keep on pushing on, not knowing what will be in the future. It's like driving through a dark tunnel and keeping hoping that at some point you see some light.
Nice.
It can happen, it may not happen. Same, sometimes you doing your mining of diamonds before you do your last dig, you give up.
All
So
you just
sometimes,
needed was just
yeah,
your
so
hand.
yeah, so that's part of life. So when I left Zimbabwe, I was already a bank manager. And I owned a house in my very young age. I owned a nice new car, and everything was working fine. But I just couldn't miss the opportunity of furthering my education. So I chose to say I'll leave this and go to UK and do my master's. My master's in international banking and finance, which I did extremely well. I think I was the best student in a class of more than 150 international students. and finishing that degree, you would hope that, yeah, now I'm sorted, I can just walk into any bank and get a similar position or better than what I was in Zimbabwe. But it wasn't easy. It really wasn't easy. We would go to interviews, do interviews, then you are flying through the interviews, but they realize that for a relationship role, and then the society was a lot more closed than now, where diversity is a lot more tolerated. A relationship role, and it was, you would pass the interview, then they really struggled to say, why are they not giving you a job? And I remember one time being told that you lack confidence, which I think was just an excuse, because they couldn't do, they didn't know what to do with me, because they could tell I knew my stuff so much, but maybe my accent was just too strong, rural, or too strong, Gutu.
Coming
to,
from
to, to
somebody
be
who was
able to,
walking barefoot.
to be able to manage a portfolio of corporate clients. So, yeah, then also what became apparent was that with some of the roles in the financial services, or in most sectors in the first world countries, is that you need a professional qualification. You can't just say I'm a professor in social services, I can go and register and work as a social worker. You can't. You need a social worker qualification. You can't just say I've got a PhD in finance, I can start advising on insurance or on mortgages. You need a specific professional qualification to be registered with the regulatory body. So realizing that after finishing my MBA, struggling to get a job, I then started. I then decided to do some professional qualifications that would help me get a job as a mortgage advisor. So I really took a knock, and once the scholarship money finished, money dried literally, and to survive, I had to be a security guard. To serve. So I started working as a security guard. But again, when your situation takes you to such detours, and to takes you down like that, I remember when I was a security guard, making an affirmation that is still on my email as my as part of my footer signature on my Yahoo email. I will read that to you. Right. So I remember when I was a security guard, then you find yourself, you are really rock bottom. You are really rock bottom, and you are not even sure what will be and how things will turn out, and you worrying, and you don't know, you really don't know what will be, whether to in that situation, whether to engage reverse gear, pack your things and reverse gear, pack your things and go back home, or you want to soldier on and you hope for a better outcome in the future. So it was that difficult. So when I was working as a security guard, I took it as an opportunity to make sure I can support my family, and also to use it to start trying to do professional qualifications that will take me into specific roles. But when you are rock bottom in life, it's not the sometimes people feel that the situation has become so hopeless and you give up. But when you are rock bottom, it's always important to believe that I'm rock bottom, but from rock bottom I can rise the highest, because you are really starting from rock bottom, and a foundation that you build from rock bottom means the structure will always be the strongest, because it's got the strongest foundation. You have seen it, and you have been tested to the core. So I remember doing an affirmation on my email which reads, our greatest potential lies in adversity. If you believe in failure, you surrender, but achievers use it as a launch pad to stardom. So our greatest potential lies in adversity. If you believe in failure, you surrender, but achievers use it as a launchpad to stardom. So this is an affirmation I did when I was a security guard, trying to do a new course, trying to see whether that course will take me somewhere, and eventually, that course helped me to secure a job as a mortgage advisor, doing mortgage advisory, doing insurance advisory in the UK, and I would help then literally thousands of people in the UK, African migrants on asylum seekers, people on work permit, helping them to say, you can also buy a property in the UK. This is at a time when I remember advising people that you can do this, and some people didn't believe it, and it was at a time when a lot of most of the, especially migrants from Zimbabwe, that's what around the early 2000s, when there was a mass exodus of migrants into UK from Zimbabwe, and people were still fixated about, I'm here for a short while, I'll just work a bit and go back home. So some people would not even take the advice to buy houses, and because they believed they would go back home. So a lot of people would advise them, started buying houses, started building portfolio of properties in those early years, and I find myself helping a lot of people to settle and also to have properties offshore, and that worked well, because what I realized when I was working as a mortgage advisor at the company that I started with was that every time I tried to place my own people, when I started getting clients, social workers, engineers, doctors, nurses from different countries, and they were on limited leave to remain, most banks would not take them. So I would then research to say and pitch the case to say, these people are professionals, they earn good money, and they can settle here, and most definitely after the initial temporary stay, they are going to extend and be permanent and eventually citizens. So they are as good as your mainstream client, and we managed to place a lot of them, and it's something that we did for years. Then came the financial crunch, which the world financial crisis, and that affected us quite a lot. And but that was some phase where we started from really nothing to just say people need to have this opportunity to be able to also buy properties, and supporting the African migrants in the UK to get on the property ladder. So we helped a lot of we helped a lot of people. Yeah. I mean a lot.
Right. Now, Jeff,
Yeah.
this ties back again.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for obviously taking us through that. This ties back again to that mango story where you notice that the teachers and everybody else, the people in London, were enjoying property and how property was actually securing their wealth and their future. Yet the actual, migrants that were coming in were not also experiencing that. And you said, you know what, never again, let me fix this. Just like you went and planted the mango.
Yeah, actually, I remember a very. I don't know whether the guy will see this interview, but without saying names, I remember one guy securing him a deal to say, yeah, you can buy a property, and securing a deal for him. Then all we needed was for the employer to confirm that yes, he works there, to the bank. Then the employer getting a request from the bank to confirm that John or Peter works there. They went crazy. The employer went literally crazy to say, what? Why do you want this migrant to buy a property? What kind of lending is that?
Oh no!
That was the employer now lecturing the bank to say you can't do that. So you
All right.
will find ourselves in situations where we have to look for another lender for another lender, or for the guy eventually I think he had to leave his employment to look for another employment.
Yeah,
And
so you're not supporting him,
they were just
if they,
blocking, to say, why do you want to give someone who is on temporary visa a mortgage or a
Mm.
bond to buy a house? So
So
it was crazy.
yeah. Now I can imagine, with all these stories, now that
Mm,
people are purchasing properties, they're now really looking to stay in
mm,
London, things started happening. You then went on and created Diaspora Insurance, but this was
mm.
inspired by a personal tragedy. Maybe you can
Yeah.
share the moment of that grief and what then
Yeah,
really
yeah,
made it personal for you.
yeah, it would happen then that 20, in the around 2010, we started realizing that people were suffering again, because every time there was diaspora death, there was always it was always going with the begging bowl. So people were suffering. And there was one high profile case where someone stayed in the mortuary for 8, 9 months, and the community was struggling to raise money for their body repatriation. And then also, be, by then I was in the media space. We doing the newzimbabwe.com platform for news, and we were supporting the community with the news and the information, and as a center for information and reaching out. So we're getting a lot of cases where people were trying to reach out to the community, say we are really desperate. Every little helps. Please help us. We've got this situation, and someone has died and their family need the person back home. We need to take them back home. So we're getting a lot of those situations which were very traumatic, and realizing that the community was suffering. The solutions coming through were like people coming together to say we support each other. I'll give you. We would do we would do the the funeral through burial societies, or through fundraising, things like that, which was quite a nightmare for a lot of families, because the funds were never coming through, and you would end up with a lot of situations where you find someone is caught up in a bereavement situation. They are grieving and they are reduced to beggars because of the bereavement. And 2011, in February, I lost my very best friend in the UK, and he just collapsed in the gym the following day when I was on the way to the hospital to see him. He collapsed again and passed away. So I was immediately then having to deal head on with that funeral. It wasn't like now news or a social issue or something happened next door. I was reduced to, I was literally reduced to a beggar. I became the chief beggar, and trying to put together funds from the family, put together funds from friends, and trying to coordinate everything to get my friend taken back home to Zimbabwe for his final resting place. The parents were in Zimbabwe, so they needed him there as their part of their final closure. So it became really a traumatic experience. That was in February 2011. Then, as fate would have it, February 2012, my own brother, the only sibling who had managed to join me in the UK, was hit by a car in Warrington going to work. And yeah, quite a lot of broken bones. Then the following week, he was transferred to a bigger hospital, Liverpool Hospital, where he was supposed to go for an hip operation. But on the way to the theater, he collapsed and he died again on the theater bed. So again, that was February 2011, February 2012, and I had to deal with that funeral again, confronting the funeral. But sometimes when you are a diasporan and you leave home, most people would leave home as young people, young adults, and when there was a funeral at home, you were not even consulted or even part of the proceedings because you were considered too young. But there you are in the diaspora, you become the main person to deal with the funeral, and sometimes you don't even know what to do. Then my brother passed away, and we had to again raise funds to try to take the body back home to Zimbabwe. And the trauma of doing with the diaspora death, where you are the main person there, is amplified by what you really go through. Sometimes, like I recall sitting in the flight there, and everyone is happy that we are going back home. It's all good, and some have not been home for so long. They are just happy to be going home. When I get home, I want to kiss the ground. I'm so happy. Then, as soon as I jump out of the flight, I'll kiss the ground. I miss home so much. So you've got a lot of mixed emotions in the flight, and you are sitting there in your seat looking miserable. People don't even know why you are miserable. And it's only you who know that I'm accompanying a brother or a sister or my spouse who is in the cargo. Because when someone is deceased, they go back as cargo. Who is in the cargo, and even when you get to the to exit the checkout at the airport, some family members are being received, meeting family that they have not seen in a long time. Your family is all there screaming and welcoming you and your deceased spouse, brother, sister, whoever. So it becomes very traumatic, and it's an experience that you really don't want anyone to feel. But death will happen. Death will happen. That's a reality. And like they say, there's nothing more certain in our lives than death and taxes. Yes, we may want to dodge the subject. In most African communities, they consider death as a taboo subject. It's not a dinner table issue or topic, but it doesn't postpone it.
Yeah.
When you reach your bus stop, you get down. It doesn't postpone it. And there's no one who will die quicker or earlier because they discussed death or they planned for their end of life. No one will live longer because they did not take a funeral policy. Equally, no one will die. But our perception as Africans, why we end up in trouble is because we look at death as a taboo subject matter, not to be discussed. If I discuss about death, or if I take a funeral policy, I'm confirming to the powers that be that I accept that at some point I will die. Therefore, chances are that this will crystallize into reality quicker.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
that
so
whole superstition.
that's the fear with most Africans, that once I accept that at some point I will die, then it becomes reality. But it's not quite correct. No one ever dies earlier because you've got a funeral policy, or anyone lives longer because you don't have a funeral policy. So ultimately, it's an issue of planning. And I put it that planning is nothing but bringing the future into the present so that you craft solutions for the long-term good. You are just bringing the future into the present, craft a solution for the long-term good. And so talking about losing a family member, having to do with the bereavement, going back home, and the pain of doing that, it's quite costly. And you find yourself, diaspora death becomes a trauma because of the cost involved. Whether someone chooses to be buried back home or someone chooses to be buried in the diaspora, the cost is quite high, because you suddenly have two vigils. People are gathered back home, people are gathered in the diaspora. If you are repatriating, the cost of both repatriation, family travel, the prolonged period of sorting all that comes with a lot of expenses. you find yourself having to expense quite a lot. Then you also have things like church service, flowers, photography, videography, or streaming. Beyond the burial itself, you need to deal with the memorial service, you need to deal with the tombstone ceremony. So for an average diaspora in dealing with the diaspora death, if you want to qualify diaspora death, my point is that it goes beyond someone dying in the diaspora. Diaspora death can actually be qualified to mean a diasporan person losing a family member, a close family member back home. Because the financial shock to the diasporan is massive, and that risk needs to be managed. So typically you will find if you lose a close family member back home, say you're in Australia or you're in UK, you're in New York as a diaspora, and you lose a parent back home, you may find yourself on a trip to go and do the funeral. And when you get there, the cash cow is here. You need to be looking at funding most of the cost of the funeral. Yes. People who were eating their cabbages and sending off one of their own, suddenly they don't want to eat cabbages because there's the
there's the diaspora money
there's Prosper from Sydney. So why should we eat cabbages when we've got Prosper or Mary from New York?
Absolutely. So you've created
so you find yourself with a lot of So you find a lot of
So you've created a product, and it's called the Funeral Cash Plan, which is FCA authorized and really
so looking at the cost and what is involved in all that, we then looking at saying if you lose someone back home, the financial shock and the financial risk needs to be managed. If you lose someone offshore, you need to manage that. What we didn't want, going back to your question, what we didn't want is to create a solution which is temporary, a solution which is like a pyramid where people come together and say if someone passes on, we help each other. And create a grouping and do that, create a grouping here, do that, because ultimately long term it's not sustainable. It's not an intergenerational financial solution or security that you can say we are doing as a community. And also the solution that we looked to create was a solution that I said we need as a people. When there's a funeral in the diaspora, we don't want a situation where there's a funeral in the diaspora and every time losing someone is tough enough. Being reduced to a beggar makes it a double trauma. We don't want to see people suffering like that, and it creates a communal disrepute when people have to say every time there's a funeral within these Africans, they're always begging. What is wrong with these people? So our view was that civilization per se is when a people create a solution for their common good. We needed to have a solution which is long-term, intergenerational, and properly frameworked as an institutional solution where people can have something that is long-term, that is strong. So we were looking at a solution which is a proper insurance product, which is underwritten and reinsured to make sure that if the people are protected correctly. But also, when you create a solution in terms of financial regulatory and in terms of good financial advice, it has to be suitable. A solution has to be suitable. When you're saying a solution is suitable, it means it speaks to the reality and the needs of the target market. If you give people a half-baked solution, you are not treating people fairly, because you are putting people in a solution which ultimately may end up working harder for the insurer than the insured. So we don't want that. What we wanted was coming from the personal tragedies, the pain, understanding the pain of a people, a diaspora, a transnational citizen. We were looking at a solution that is equally transnational, a worldwide protection that protects people wherever they are. Issues of location, issues of choice, those issues are not fixed over the long term. They are fluid. And as people change their location, their solution should remain valid. As people change their choice, their solution should remain valid. So the solution we created is we created a policy called the Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan. Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan. So Diaspora Insurance is the company or the brand name that promotes the products, but the actual product that we offer is called the Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan, which is basically a funeral solution, a funeral policy which is cash-based. We departed from the traditional funeral insurance, which says when you die, we'll give you a coffin, we'll give you transport, and we'll do the burial. We said, fine, that is a good solution, but that speaks to yesteryear. It's a
if I'm not
yesteryear
in that
solution.
place, I can't use
It's
that
a
coffin.
it's a yesteryear solution in that when those solutions were developed, the assumption was that you are born locally, you grow up locally, you die locally, then you get buried locally. You can innovate to say, we can pick the body from Australia and take it to Zimbabwe or to Kenya or somewhere. But that does not take away the fact of rigidity in that solution. And the rigidity ultimately means the policy will benefit the insurer rather than the insured. And you don't want that from the personal strategies, from the pains that we had seen people going through. We wanted something that speaks to the issues and the needs of our people as diasporans, in that diasporans are transnational people. We belong to more than one society, more than one nation. We want a solution that says, if I die in Australia, my policy should be able to take me home if that is my choice. If my choice changes to say I now want to be laid to rest in Australia, the same solution should work. If I choose to say I now want to be cremated, the same insurance solution I have should work. So we don't want a solution which is very rigid and it puts people in a very rigid and awkward situation to say, when you die, we'll take you home. What if I decide over the long term that I no longer want to be taken home? What if I decide over the long term that I now want cremation? What if I find myself in 20, 30 years that I'm settled in Florida with one of my children doing very well in Florida? Or what if I relocate to UK? You want a solution that speaks to the issue that a diasporan is a transnational citizen. It's a global citizen who belongs to more than one society, and you want to give them a policy which is equally transnational, which works irrespective of location, irrespective of change of choice. For that reason, we said, no, people should get their funeral insurance as a cash policy. With the cash in hand, you can then pay for what you want at the point of need, not being locked into a solution that may never work for you. So we did the Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan as a cash-based policy that says within 24, because it's a guaranteed acceptance policy, within 24 hours of you providing us proof of death, the monies are wired into any bank account worldwide. Cash is king, and cash knows no border. Therefore, once you have the cash, your choice is, I still want to be taken home. Use the same cash to be taken home. No, my choice has changed. I want to be buried in the diaspora. Use the same cash to be buried in the diaspora. No, my choice has changed. My location has changed. You are still using the. So in countries, Australia, we give each diasporan can take a cover of up to 30,000 Australian dollars on a guaranteed acceptance policy. No medicals on application, no medicals on claim. And the no medicals means that in the event of a claim, you don't have to wait for the GP's report, hospital medical history report, what. All we need is proof of death and the monies are paid out. So that's the solution that we took to the people, and it has done extremely well. And it's now a multi-million-dollar operation, the Diaspora Insurance. We are now covering 25 African nationalities wherever they are. When we say we are covering 25 nationalities, take an example to say Kenyans. We cover Kenyans wherever they are in the world. If it's Zimbabweans, we cover Zimbabweans wherever they are in the world. Ghanaians, we cover them wherever they are in the world. But not only that, the pain of the diasporan, remember I said a solution has to be suitable and speak to the needs and reality of the target market. As a diasporan, like I said, you are a cash cow for your people or for your village back home. God forbid something happens to mom back home. People expect you to chip in your traveling cost, supporting with the funeral. And it's not always that death tends to strike when you least expect it. And sometimes they say death comes like a thief.
You don't get a
You know you are in the
notification. You don't get a
you know you're in the
notification on your
diaspora.
phone.
Yeah, you know you're in the diaspora. You wake up in the morning, the screen is red with missed calls from home. You know there's an emergency back home. You
Yeah.
check in your bank account, there's minus $10.
You see, I think what you are solving is when we were growing up, there was a difference between a funeral and NAMO. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
For my overseas people here, I would explain NAMO
Mm.
is when people are really struggling to put money
Struggling, yeah.
together to
Mm.
fund the burial and things of that nature.
Mm.
But a
Mm.
funeral,
Mm.
you are actually supplying with the
Yeah,
services, with
you
the
got the things,
food,
and
and
people
and
can
and
expect it meet. Yeah,
yeah.
so the point really is that when the solution that we wanted, we were creating, like I said, wanted to address all the needs of the target market, the diasporan. We allow people in the diaspora, the diasporans, not just to cover themselves in the diaspora, but also to cover a situation where you lose someone who mattered to you back home. So we allow people to add their family members back home
Mm,
or wherever they are in the world. You may find you are in Australia, your brother is in South Africa, you got another brother in the UK, maybe they are not yet settled and you want to put them on your policy. We allow you to cover yourself and family. Yourself and family. Anyone who will hit you financially, who will hit your pocket financially, in the event of a bereavement, we say you can put them on your policy. So
right.
your budget permitting, you can put as many people as you want on your policy.
Right. So when something tragedy happens, let's say, God forbid, a mom,
Back
has
home or
back
wherever they
home,
are. Mm-hmm.
so they unlocked that 30,000. Does that restart the plan again so that it builds on
No,
to?
no, no. The way it works is that if I'm in Australia, Sydney, or I'm in UK, London, or New York, and I cover myself, say I'm in Australia, I cover myself, it's myself, my wife, and maybe say 3 children. We can cover each of the what we call the nucleus family in the diaspora, self, spouse, and children, 30,000 each. So as a family, we've got a cover for 150,000.
Right.
The 30,000 is per life. Then if family back home, you can then say, I want to add mom, I want to add my mother-in-law, I want to add my brother, I want to add my auntie, I want to add my brother, my sister, whoever you want to add. People back home, you can cover them up to 7,500 Australian dollars each.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
maybe you end up adding another 4 people at 7.5. That's another 30,000 plus your 150. That's 180,000 cover. Then God forbid anything happens to any of those lives, you only get paid for the deceased life. You don't get paid the full policy. So each life has got its own cover.
Absolutely. And
And
what
you as
is
the diasporan who is the policy holder, you can then you have that total cover. Then you've got the total premium for the family that you are paying for your family members. And
okay?
when you set up your policy, you actually appoint to say, if I'm not there myself as the principal life who took this policy, I want my spouse to be able to claim. If she's also not there, I want my daughter or my son or my brother to claim. So you appoint people who can claim the money if it's yourself affected.
Right. So for the
And it
people back home, yes, for the people back home, you did say for you to unlock the
the claim
money
in the
out.
event of a claim,
Yes, you're going to need proof of death, and in
it's
cases
very
where
simple.
that might not be possible. Yeah.
No, no, not even. It's even faster than in Australia or in UK. Because back home, once someone is passed on, you get if they're in hospital, you get I think it's a B12 form, which confirms death. You take it to the local registry. Within an hour, 2 hours, you will have a burial order. That
Fantastic.
burial order is enough proof of death for us to confirm that, yes, it's genuine. The people back home on the ground, they take a picture of that burial order, even using WhatsApp, send it to you. You fill in a claim form, you attach the ID of the person deceased. Then you attach your own ID and send it to us. We confirm that death is genuine, and then the monies are released. Such that quite often, people who lose people back home, they get their money on the same day and buy a ticket and leave on the same day.
Now, Jeff, obviously, as with anything, there's going to be fees involved, and not all policies are going to be the same. How many cows does one have to sell, or how many hours does one have to work in order?
No, it's not. It's not that expensive. The essence of insurance is that for a small premium, you buy protection. It's not like I'm going to get every 150,000, so they are going to need so much money. The essence of insurance is not to say we'll give you what you have put in. You are buying protection by contributing a small premium. So the premiums for are very, very affordable. The premiums are based on two things: the amount of cover that you choose and the age of the person you are looking to cover. Those are the two main factors that affect the premium you pay for each of the lives that you put on your policy. But when people talk to our advisors, they can walk through the options. The 30,000 is not like everyone in the diaspora. In Australia, a mandatory 30,000. In UK, we do maximum of 20. In EU, we do maximum of 20,000 euros per life. In America, Canada, we do maximum of 30,000. But you can choose to say, I want to start my policy at 10, at 15, at 20, at 25. We do it in multiples of 5, 5, 5, 5. So you can choose, in fact, 2.5. So you can choose the cover that suits your budget. But it's quite affordable in terms of the cover, in terms of what it does for you. It's a very affordable policy. And when the other key question, which relates to what you said, there is, if you lose a parent back home, do we then send the money to your family back home? We send the money to the diasporan. Because it's your policy, we send the money to you. You are the one who then decides, I'm using part of this money to buy my ticket to go, or maybe I'll go for memorial. For now, I'll send the money to make sure that my brother or my sister gets a dignified send off. So you support the bereavement in that fashion. But the diasporan remains in control of their policy and when anyone being paid out on their policy. So the monies are paid to the policy holder.
What I like about that is you don't have to grieve twice, grieving for the person who's actually moved on and also grieving for you not being able to do anything after having been over here.
Yeah, it also gives us a lot of energy, a lot of energy really to go the extra mile. When you hear family saying, without diaspora insurance, I wouldn't have been able to bury my mother. Without diaspora insurance, I wouldn't have been able to bury my daughter or my spouse. It gives us the extra energy. And I always say, and as a team of all the staff in the diaspora insurance group, we always put it that ours is not work. Ours is a calling. We have got a privilege to be serving the community with this product. So we need to do it well. So we always put it that ours is not work, it's a calling.
Because now you're supporting the needy, you're repatriating bodies across continents. How do these acts really reflect on, first of all, where you personally came from and where you're going?
It's just like I said, it's not. It becomes more of a calling than work, where you find yourself going the extra mile, supporting families and making sure that their pain is your pain, and you make sure that they get the support they need at the time when things are lowest for them. It's very, very critical. So that's how we work to always make sure that we support families and we go the extra mile all the time. How it reflects on us is that it speaks to the type of service that we give our families, that we are giving a service which is structured to speak to their, not only their reality as transnational people, but also their needs, which are not fixed but change over time. But providing them a solution that says, you don't have to worry to say, I'm no longer wanting to be taken home. You still use the same 30,000. You don't have to worry to say I've relocated to Australia, from Australia to UK or to Canada. You still use the same policy. You don't have to worry to say I've gone on holiday to West Indies and God forbid something happens there. My travel insurance is refused to pay, which normally happens if you travel with the pre-existing medical conditions. Your policy, your diaspora policy will pick it up from wherever you are in the world. So it becomes a solution which speaks to our people, and it gives us pride to say we feel chosen to be taken this solution to the people. And I want this point to be remembered that it may take some people a very long time to realize that their solution that they may have chosen is not necessarily speaking to their needs and their reality. What am I saying? Diaspora insurance was designed by diasporans for diasporans to meet the diaspora, to meet the pains that we know and we have experienced. I don't want a situation where someone young like yourself in Australia, you take a policy, you soldier on paying your policy, you are blessed with longevity, you hit your 80. You realize you're a grandparent in Australia now, grandchildren in Australia. People who met at you back home, you have outlived all of them. The decision is that I'm no longer going to be taken home. I'm going to be laid to rest in Australia where my children are, my grandchildren, maybe grandchildren are. Then you start going through your papers, you realize that your policy locked you. And for the past 40 years or 30 years, you were paying for a policy that is supposed to take you home and bury you in Zimbabwe, offer you a bus, a nice some bowser for water and some generators for the funeral in the village so that you have lights when you are being buried. You realize that I spent 30 years paying for this. It's not going to work for me. That's when we say a solution has worked harder for the insurer, not the insured. So it's more like the solution was insuring the insurer.
Now, for those
but with the cash cover, you then say, now as I speak, I've got a fixation about being taken home. I want to be laid to rest back home if anything happens to me. And we've got that fixation, fine. Because you've got people who met at you back home, maybe you still have parents, you still have siblings back home, and your fixation is that I will be taken back home. Even biblically, it's not something new to be taken home. When Israel was about to die, he called his son Joseph and said, when I die, take my body out of Egypt and bury me with my ancestors in Israel. To which Joseph said, I will do as you say. It's not new to be taken home, but let's bring the future into the present and say, okay, fine. I've got this fixation now. Give it 40 years. My situation changes because people who matter to me back home are no longer there. People are referring, no one knows you back home. People are referring you as Uncle London or Uncle New York or Andy Sydney. They won't even show up at the airport to receive the body. What? And your family here says, Sekuru Ombuya, where are you going? We have to leave you are going to be buried in Sydney. You are going to be buried in New York. Then you realize that for the 40 years you were paying for a policy that says we'll take you home. We want your policy to then say, this is the 30,000. Use it to be buried in New York now. This is the 20,000 euros. Use it to be buried in Berlin now. If that becomes the choice. So that flexibility is very, very important. That people, when you take a policy, don't think just today. Some people go home to bury parents or to bury a relative. They see the things happening and they say, this is what I also want. Then they forget that they are actually transnational people who may never be buried in the village. But you wake up to that after 40 years. When you spend all your working life paying for a policy that will not work for you. But cash will never let you down because whatever you then choose, whenever you choose, location changes, choice changes, but you are using the same policy, whatever, irregardless. And so I want people to remember that point. It's a very, very critical point, and some people will realize that after 30 years or 40 years. And some people will take it in the diaspora. You are a 40-year-old in the diaspora. You've got children that were born in the diaspora who have never been back home, some maybe once. And there are only police that say when we die, we'll be buried back home. You are not creating intergenerational financial security by taking wrong solutions. You need a solution that protects your children now, protects you now, and so that in the long term, your children, they don't prescribe back home. You think home because you grew up home, emotionally you belong home. Our children in the diaspora don't belong there. They belong here. They belong in Sydney, they belong in New York. And you are taking and paying a police that says when we die, we'll take you home. Beyond you, even if you were to force your way and go back home, your children will not go home. Your children will want a solution that says 30,000. If anything happens, it gives them that security to be sent offshore. So
Absolutely.
people need to think through when they take solutions to say, don't just prescribe for the now, prescribe for the now, for the short term, mid-term, long term. Bring the future into the present, create different scenarios to say, what if this changes? What if this changes? How does my policy work? Then we can talk.
Now, for those that are looking to obviously take matters into their own hands and actually start getting peace of mind in order for them to not only for themselves but for their loved ones, and also just really secure a policy with Diaspora Insurance, where would they go to, or what can they do first, or how can they get hold of you?
Yeah, it's very simple. And our name tells the story, actually, half the story. We are Diaspora Insurance. What it means is we are first movers. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a name diasporainsurance.com. What we do best, and we were blessed to be the first movers. So diasporainsurance.com. Peace of mind guaranteed. You go in there, you can check out your number. If you're in USA, you can phone the USA number. If you're in Australia, you can phone the Australia number, UK number, and you get answered straight away. If for any reason you are not answered or you're too busy, just fill in a form and the team will come back to you. Check with you what time is convenient to get hold of you. Call me this time or call me on Sunday. We'll call you on Sunday and give you a peace of mind. Ours is not work, it's a calling. We'll do things at the convenient time to you, not to us.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes below. Now, I'm actually going to apologize, Jeff. I should have worn that t-shirt that you gave me because
no, it's fine next time.
next time. Absolutely. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes below so that people can actually connect with you. And if you're watching and you're following this, thank you so much. You can also look just behind Jeff there's a QR code and there's all those numbers. Just maybe scan the QR code and you definitely can get started on your journey with the cash plan there. Now, obviously, we've talked about the product and we've talked about you as a person. I just wanted to tie back again, Jeff, that whole, story of you finding those mangoes and having created, an orchard for future generations. And I think people are still eating those mangoes. I think this is exactly what you've also created with Diaspora Insurance. You're creating not only for yourself, but I think even future generations, that peace of mind of just knowing that when it's mango season, that people will sit under that tree, not only for the shade, but also for the nourishment. And what you have also created is when, like you said, when the time of reckoning comes, no one is given a text message or a warning that, hey, by tomorrow, at least have your affairs in order. Things would just happen.
Correct. Yeah. That's
under those trees.
That's a key point. That's a key point. I know you were concluding, but the key thing also I just wanted to say to the African diaspora is that the issue of avoiding death as a taboo subject is just avoiding planning. And to God, you may think that it happens next door, but to God, the next door is anyone's door. We are not guaranteed of tomorrow. No one is guaranteed of tomorrow. So take the step, plan, and enjoy your peace of mind. That's what it is. You will not die because you now have a funeral policy.
But Jeff, I don't know if anyone has ever told you this. I feel like you're doing God's work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You,
why I think our position as a team is that ours is a calling, not work. We want to support communities. We want to solve this problem. It brings a lot of disrepute to the diaspora as a people. That every time there's a funeral, we begging and bereavement. Put that together, double trauma. And
double trouble.
we don't want that. We've arrested that problem and we want to take the solution to the people. It pains us. You only need to juxtapose a family that has got that has cashed their 30,000 or 20,000 for a funeral and a family that is begging for a funeral. That's
Well,
when you realize
I
that,
put
oh
it
my
together.
God, if
There's a funeral and then there's Namo, you know.
there's no more, yeah. So that's when you realize that, oh my God, if God could give me broader shoulders to reach everyone. If
Mm.
only I'd reached this family, maybe I would have saved a better purpose in my life.
But
Yeah.
obviously now you're doing you actually are in Sydney as we speak. You know, we just
Mhm.
currently met, and also I think the world is starting to take notice, Jeff. You
Mhm.
know, first of all, you were named Male Entrepreneur of the Year in 2024, and you've won a
Mhm.
big award in 2025. I know
Mhm.
you are humble by nature, and this is really getting you into many spaces and many ears. But how does this make you feel knowing that you've created something that would not only save your
Yeah.
own family, but you know, a lot of
Yeah, so
other
yeah,
families out
sometimes
there?
sometimes it's just like I said, it's a calling, and when you take a solution to people and you feel really humbled to say that I'm providing a solution that he helps people, so that in the bigger picture of things overrides anything else, and you just keep on going doing your work. And I find myself now doing work that I sometimes an average CEO would not even do or would not even
So
want
that
to do.
on Friday.
But I just do it. It's to me, I grew up in the fields working, so if I can
Mm.
go one extra hour, one extra mile, and save the next person, and that's what it fulfills me more than just saying I'm a big guy now, or I am doing this and I don't want to do this low level work. To me, there's no low level work if you are changing people's lives and changing people's realities and
Mm.
bringing a solution to your own people. Like I
Absolutely.
said, civilization is when we create a solution for our common good, and this is a solution for our common good, and we want to make sure that people get the help, and the people are locking themselves on a permanent solution, not a temporary solution which will not work for them in the event of change of location or change of choice.
Mm.
So yeah, it gives us that extra energy, and I feel quite humbled to like I said, we feel chosen to be taking this solution to the people. Yeah.
Jeff, there comes a time in life where someone is chosen
Mm-hmm.
to carry the generation and the people
Mm-hmm.
elsewhere. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there was a time where people didn't know how to communicate. Now we're talking in different states, different
Quite
times, and
easily.
things of that nature. Somebody created this
The
solution.
solution. Mm.
And what you have created, I think, is amongst those things that will actually change the
Mm.
way people actually consider traveling and connecting with those you know,
Correct. Yeah.
their loved ones abroad. So on
Mm-hmm.
behalf of anyone that would ever have the opportunity to receive a stipend from the cash plan, thank you for the
Mm-hmm.
service that you're doing there. I repeat my words, you are doing
Thank you.
God's work.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we will keep going. We'll keep going, and we are creating. We also support a lot of communities in terms
Yeah.
of our social corporate responsibility, and
Mm.
supporting families, and supporting communities in terms of community empowerment, and even our artists bridging the gap between the diaspora and the African diaspora and their culture and identity back home. We take that very seriously because as a people, what makes us a distinctive people is our identity and our culture. But as we live scattered in the diaspora, you find that that identity becomes a bit shaken. And what brings us to, when we have events in the diaspora, we're able to bring our own artists from back home in our countries of origin. That puts us together and gives us that identity. Our identity is our power. Our identity is our voice. Our identity is our togetherness. And we want, as part of our social corporate responsibility, to be feeding into that narrative where we become a scattered people, but we should not lose our identity. And it's important. That's why we keep on supporting most of these initiatives. And sometimes not because we can sponsor them, but because they are important to our people. And it's
Absolutely.
critical. Mm.
Absolutely. Now, Jeff, I can't thank you enough for
Thank
what
you.
you're doing and the time that we spent today. I mean, your life story and your experience from the biltong, the London words on the boards, and the motivation that you are now not only passing on to the next generation, but also even those amongst you that would have had an opportunity to meet you in person. You're a humble person and you carry yourself with such zeal and full of life that so many people really can learn from what you're creating. I can't wait to see what this show will do, not only for yourself, but for those that are learning about you for the very first time.
Thank you.
In order for them to actually grasp the one word that you said, it's all about peace of mind. It's all about really looking at it in a way that is the policy you're holding working for you, or is it helping for the person that's
Correct. Yeah.
getting that stipend from you throughout. So thank you so much for
Thank
what
you.
you are doing. I think this wasn't just a conversation, it was a journey.
No, thank you so much. And also for yourself, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for the work that you are doing. Sometimes there are a lot of African diasporas out there who are busy doing things that are changing lives, and they never get spoken about because we don't have our own platforms where we can do these conversations. And I know sometimes it's not always about money. Sometimes it's about supporting the community, and most of the community work that we do, we may not be paid for it, but just that you are creating those platforms to support communities and give a community a mouthpiece, a community a platform to reach out is very, very critical. So we really support you. We really feel that you are doing a lot of good work there, and keep it up. We need platforms like this to be able to talk to our people, to encourage each other, to inspire each other, and keep going as a people. We are the solution that we've been waiting for. And
Absolutely.
we really need to take whatever role we are playing in the communities very, very seriously, because it makes us a complete people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I really appreciate those words, and I
Thank
will
you.
definitely take them to heart. Now, for those that are watching, we went from Gutu to the UK. We went from tragedy to transformation. And I think this is just the kind of story that just doesn't inform, but literally transforms the way we thought life was. And what I would really want to encourage you to do is, if you are watching this episode right now, share this episode with either somebody from the diaspora, your friend, your uncle, your relatives. We need to make sure that this message gets to the right people, and the right people get the right help that they are looking for. And if this episode really leaked something for you, be sure to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more stories that could move you, and methods that work, and insights that stick. I'm Prosper Taruinga, thanking Jeff again for the for the last time as we conclude this, and saying, here is your peace of mind. I think Diaspora Insurance is something that a lot of people really need, and you should really take cognizance of where you are and what policy is actually holding you through, because as Jeff said, you are never given a notification or a notice that tomorrow is your day. Until next time, let's keep building prosperity. That's more than just financial, but transformational. Bye for
Thank
now.
you. Thank you. Thank you.